good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Ogbanje Joseph. Please subscribe to this channel, like and share this video, as well as drop a comment on the comment section. Today we're going to be looking at the concept of war. The concept of war. The concept of war. Okay, so what is war? War can be described as a widespread conflict between states or between states, organization, or relatively large group of people, which is characterized by the use of lethal violence, between combatants or upon civilians. Okay, so it is defined as a series of military campaigns, between at least, two opposing sides involving a dispute over sovereignty, territory, resources, religion, or a host of other issues. Okay, so according to General von Clausewitz in 1908, war can be defined as an act of violence to compel our opponents to fulfill our will. Okay, thus it is a continuation of politics by other means. Okay, by continuation of politics by other means. Okay, according to Sun Tzu describes war as a matter of life and death and a road to either safety or ruin. Okay, hence it is actually a subject of inquiry which on no account can be neglected. So when we talk about war, it is actually an armed conflict, okay, between two or more nations in which both combatants try to inflict damage on the other. Okay, now this is done to compel the weak to submit to the will of the stronger opponent. Okay, having looked at the concept of war, let us look at what is warfare. Okay, what is warfare? Now, what is warfare? Warfare can be defined as the tactics of waging wars. Okay, it is actually the technique of conducting war using, using the appropriate weaponry. So comprehensively, warfare, okay, comprehensively. So why war, as is described as a violent conflict between two or more groups that are trying to defeat the other through killing each other. Warfare is a means by which we fight war. Warfare is actually a means by which we fight war. Okay, now war is actually a situation of fighting between countries, groups, etc. For instance, if Iraq is actually fighting Iran, okay, that is actually war. But warfare, on the other hand, refers to fighting. It refers to fighting. Okay, it refers to fighting a war using such tactics as biological, okay, chemical or nuclear weaponry. Okay, so warfare is how you wage a war. Warfare is actually how you wage a war, meaning that warfare usually has, a military outcome. So when we talk about war, on the other hand, it tends to have a political outcome. Okay, so like I said, warfare has a military outcome. War, on the other hand, has a political outcome. Okay, but generally, warfare means fighting a war, such as biological, chemical, nuclear, and all of that. So now, warfare is actually how you wage a battle. Okay, it has how you wage a battle. Okay, like I said, warfare has a military outcome, while war has a political outcome. Now, let us look at the types of warfare now. What are the types of warfare? The first type of warfare is conventional warfare. Conventional warfare. What is conventional warfare? Conventional warfare is a form of warfare conducted, okay, by using conventional weapons and battlefields, okay, tactics, battlefield tactics between two or more states in an open confrontation. Now, the forces on each side are well defined and fights using weapons that primarily target the opponent's military. Now, the general aim of conventional warfare is to weaken or destroy the opponent's military. Okay, so thereby negating its ability to do what? To engage in conventional warfare. That is conventional warfare. Now, what is unconventional or irregular warfare? Irregular warfare, on the other hand, can be defined as when one or more combatants are irregular, irregular military rather than regular forces. Now, for example, have guerrilla warfare, which is a form of irregular warfare, and then we have asymmetric warfare. Okay, so those are the things. Now, let us look at types of warfare. What are the types of warfare? The types of warfare as follows. Number one, we have Cold War. Number one, Cold War. What is Cold War? Cold War can be defined as a state of conflict between nations that does not involve direct military action, but it's pursued primarily through economic and political actions, okay, propaganda, acts of espionage, and proxy wars waged by surrogates. Okay, so the surrogates here are typically states that are satellites of the conflicting nations, that is, nations allied to them or under their political influence. So when we're talking about when we're talking about warfare and Cold War, we're actually talking about we do a lot of surrogacy, a lot of alliances and counter alliances, and all of that. So the opponents in the Cold War will often provide economic or military aid, such as weapons, tactical support, or military advisors to do what? To lesser nations involved in conflict with the opposing conflict or with the opposing country. So a very good example was actually the time between 1945 to 1991 when there was Cold War between the Western Bloc and the Eastern Bloc, for example. Okay, so that's actually Cold War. That's number one type of war. Number two type of war is insurgency. And insurgency is an armed rebellion against the constituted authority. For example, an authority recognized, as such by the United Nations. So when those taking part in the rebellion are not recognized as belligerents, you can say that insurgency is actually taking place. Okay, so as insurgency can be fought via counterinsurgency warfare and may also be opposed by measures to protect the population and by political and economic actions of various kinds aimed at undermining the insurgents' claims against incumbent regime. So when we talk about insurgency, we're actually talking about an armed rebellion against the constituted authority. Okay, against the constituted authority, and those rebellious group, okay, are not recognized as belligerents. Okay, so insurgency can be fought via counterinsurgency, warfare and all of that. Okay, so those are the things. So if it is not a belligerent group, if it's just a group of rebellion fighting against a state that is recognized by the United Nations, then you can say that insurgency is taking place. Number three type of war is asymmetrical warfare. What is asymmetrical warfare? This is a type of warfare between belligerent. And who are these belligerents? Belligerents are people that are recognized, people that have lawful authority to rebel against the constituted authority. You understand? So if you are fighting a just cause, you are a belligerent group. So it is actually a war between belligerents relatively whose relatively military power differ significantly, or whose strategy or tactics differ significantly. Okay, so the term is frequently used to describe what is called, guerrilla warfare. Okay, insurgency, terrorism, okay, counterinsurgency, counterterrorism, essentially violent conflict between a formal military and an informal, less equipped and supported, undermanned but resilient opponent. So when we talk about asymmetrical warfare, we're actually talking about the conflict in which the resources of a belligerent differ in essence and in strength. So interest and attempt to exploit each other's characteristics, weaknesses. Such struggles often involves strategies and tactics of unconventional warfare. So asymmetrical warfare is actually, it is an armed conflict between a weaker, you understand, a weaker combatant attempting to use strategy to offset their deficiency and quality, or you understand, or quantity. You understand? So when you have a lesser, a weaker group fighting a more formidable, stronger group, then you can say that that's an asymmetrical warfare. It is a warfare that is fought on the basis of imbalance. Okay, so we have number 4, Fabian strategy is a kind of warfare. It's a military strategy where pitched battles and frontal assaults are avoided in favor of wearing down an opponent through a war of attrition or indirection. Okay, so while avoiding decisive battle, the side employing this strategy harasses its enemy through skirmishes to cause attrition, disrupt supply, and affect morale. So Fabian strategy is actually a strategy to weaken your opponent's strategy. Okay, so number 5 is terrorism. Number 5 is terrorism. What is terrorism? Terrorism is defined as a political violence in an asymmetrical conflict that is designed to induce terror and psychic fear through the violent intimidation and destruction of non-combatant targets. Okay, so those are the things. So now we are talking about terrorism. Terrorism. Now the essence of terrorism is actually to actually achieve a political, political, religious, economic, and all of that, aim. Okay, so the last type of warfare that we have is political action, or sorry, police action. Police action is actually a military and security concept, okay, that actually is undertaken without a formal declaration of war. Now, since the Second World War, formal declaration of war have been rare, especially actions conducted, conducted by developed nations in connection with the Cold War. You know, so rather nations actually involved in this type of action, actually go into war under the auspices of police action to show that it is limited. It is limited, in military operation are different from total war. So Soviet war in Afghanistan and Vietnam war were actually, undeclared war, and hence also could be described as police action. So police action is just like a sting operation. It's just like a sting operation, but it's not a sting operation. It is actually a war that is fought, okay, without a formal declaration of that war. Thank you very much.